to golf and golf operations. Larry Crisco is the vice chairman of the board. Behind me, Sean Cox is the representative for MFG, and Sam Frank is their legal representative here in North Carolina. And also with us is John Boozer, standing right over here on the right, who is our general manager. Before we begin, I want to go over a few rules that we'll have for today. It's going to be a two-part question and answer session. The first session will be about MFG and their goals and objectives for coming to Forest Creek. And we will allow Sean and Sam to get up and tell us what their vision is and what they're thinking about with Forest Creek. At that point, after he finishes, we'll do a question and answer strictly about the MFG deal, with Sean narrating. The second phase of it will be an FCI meeting, where you can ask questions about FCI and our thoughts in putting this deal together. So what we will do when we get into question and answer for both sessions, you'll raise your hand if you have a question. Larry Crisco has the microphone. He will go to you. You'll stand up, state your name and your question to Larry. At that point, the appropriate person up here will answer the question. So to start the meeting, I'm going to give you Sean Cox.
Thank you, John. So I was here back in February, and I did an introduction on myself and on MFG, and I thought I would do that again because some of you may have not been here at that time. My name is Sean Cox. I've been in the golf business for almost 24 years now. I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I played a couple sports in college, football and baseball at the University of Washington. I played on a national championship football team back in 1991. The reason I have passion for golf is because I was actually born in Arizona, and my mom played golf at Arizona State and was a state high school champion in golf. So I caddied at a club when I was 15, 16 years old in Seattle called Sahali. I've been around great golf clubs, and after college, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I graduated from a great university, and I got into the golf business at a place called Torrey Pines. And I fell in love with the business. I fell in love with hospitality. I fell in love with getting to know people. And after a couple of years, I was recruited to go over to La Jolla Country Club, and that's where I met Papa Doug Manchester. He's a member there for probably about 40 years. And he saw something in me, and he brought me over to a place called the Grand Del Mar. And I started a membership from scratch with 0 members, and done $4 or $5 million worth of renovations to the golf facility. I have total control and operation of the complete operation at this facility. And he's seen something in me over the last 20 years that I've known him. And he approached me back in January about an opportunity that came up here at Forest Creek. And he asked me if I was interested in coming out here and basically moving my family out here to come be a part of your family. And I had been here about 10 years ago to play. I was here 2 years ago to play, and I've always thought that this is one of the most incredible properties I've ever been to. And I told him I was interested, and we started, talking about, with you and FCI, and I came out here and made the presentation. And through this whole process, I can't tell you, I've met a lot of people. I've been in this industry a long time, and I've met a lot of wonderful people here. And part of why I'm still really interested in this deal, and he's interested, is because I think we can bring you together to make this place as good as it's ever been. Bring membership together. I've been here a couple days. I know that there's a lot of positive vibes and negative vibes and all that. I can tell you that I can bring people together. I can bring back what you guys have, and that is a facility that you should be coming here to play golf, to have fun, to have social events, and do those sorts of things. Unfortunately, in the golf business, we've hit some snags in filling memberships at every club in the country. Some places there's a lot of competition, and some places when you start losing members, you start going, in a direction that it's very hard to right the ship. And sometimes the best option is to maybe look at opportunities like building a lodge on the property or bringing in an outside investor. It's very difficult once in this industry that things start going a little sideways to correct it, because it takes money. And Mr. Manchester is committed to this property. Part of what we've agreed to in the contract is in the first 24 months to put $3 million in improvements. It could be a lot more than that. I mean, the first job I'm going to get in here is try to evaluate all the things that can bring Forest Creek to the level where it's the best property in town. And so, there's things like cart paths, there's things like irrigation system, there's, things that we'd like to do, practice facility wise, covered, hitting bay. There's all kinds of great things that can be done with this. And what this place has that a lot of places don't have is, for Mr. Manchester, is an opportunity to build a lodge with this view here. This isn't in the middle of town. This isn't out in the outskirts. You're 2 miles from one of the biggest golf destinations in the United States. And not one of the properties in town has this view here that you have at your facility. And so there's an opportunity here to build something that's not only recognized here in Pinehurst or in North Carolina, but worldwide. And that's what interests us. And that's why we're here. That's why we've been here. And some of the things that you've got a lot of paperwork that you got a contract, some of the stuff that we, are going to do, there's no more cart fees till 2019. There's no increased dues. If you have a membership attached to your lot or your home, we are honoring that, and you keep that equity in that. One course daily for the membership, guaranteed, and many other things that we're committed to do. The key piece to this is your trust in us. I found in the golf business a big key is price point. And you have to understand, you're worried about the quality of people that are going to come here. If you have the facility that demands a price, you'll get the right people here. We're not going to build something or do something that's going to bring down the value of Forest Creek. We're going to be the largest stakeholder in this whole operation. We're going to, have 110 lots. We're going to own the facility. If we do anything to bring down the value, it only hurts us. And so that's how we've done things in the past. That's what we're committed to do. And, obviously this is a lot for a membership to make a decision like this. And I can understand, how, this can bring out a little bit of animosity amongst you. But you need somebody that can bring that together. One of the things that you can find with management companies or things like that is they might be managed by somebody that is from afar. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here every day. I'll answer your questions, and I'll be the one that you can, have faith in that's going to make this place great. Thank you.
Thanks, John. As you know, we're also doing this on a webinar, and there are questions that will be coming in. So occasionally I'll take questions from the internet if Nick gives them to me. So we'll open the floor to questions, and by doing so, you raise your hand. Larry will go to you.
Thanks, Larry. I have a question relating to property owners who are members also. In the materials that came out, I think it was page 5, it said existing members, and that's the proper word here. Existing members can sell their property and transfer the memberships to someone who will be approved, of course. Does that transfer to future members, or is that a one-time situation?
You mean transfer after transfer after transfer?
I mean, for example, member A is a property owner, sells his lot to some other individual who's approved for membership. 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, can he sell his equity share in that, or does it end with the first buyer?
We haven't made that decision yet. That's not in the contract, so I can't really answer that.
I'm a voter. Sean, I have a bunch of questions.
State your name.
Sorry?
State your name, please.
Steve Smith. Two questions, Sean. I have a bunch of it. I'm narrowed down to two. Number one is, what will be your policy on what we would call etiquette? I'll give you an example. We have things here, we know where you're at in the locker rooms or the restaurant. We have people that control that. I was over at Pinehurst the other day, sitting in the members' lounge, and 3 guys came in. Who were there's this. They all had Levi's on. They all had less than collared shirts, and one guy had ones that screwed the Packers. So obviously, they were. Anyway, and I can tell you that some of my playing partners in here, we see somebody in the rings and the shirt tucked in, we can tell them tuck it in, or we can talk to the pro. Question one. Second question is, obviously, we have failed in utilizing our assets, particularly these 2 courses. And I'm sure that as you've looked at your model, it's to increase the amount of rounds. We get less than 20,000 rounds a year in 2 courses. That's unbelievable. So if you were to close tomorrow, and my assumption is the biggest opportunity for revenue is more rounds, what would you do to do that?
So the first thing we're going to need, I'll answer 2 parts. First, the etiquette part. A lot of things when it comes to etiquette depends on what part of the country you're in and what type of club you are. So I'd answer that question in saying that, you have traditions here, and those traditions are what make you a great golf club. One of the things that I didn't mention, we, in the contract, we're keeping the men's locker room. So the traditions of the golf club and the men's locker room, why would they change? I would say, why should that change? And why would somebody come in there with a t-shirt if he's your guest or it's one of our members? So I don't see anything changing there. You create a restaurant or somewhere like that, people tend to dress based on the type of facility that it is. Obviously at the driving range, if we have a policy, one of the things that we've done at my operation is really make it feel like if you're a resort guest, you feel like you're at a private club. So we have dress codes and stuff like that as well. It's sometimes you have to reprimand people and do that type of thing. The second part to your question was about rounds and revenue. There's many ways to get, revenue other than rounds. There's group events, there's weddings, there's other types of things. The first year in the planning stages of lodge and all that, a lot of the time is going to be spent on the golf courses. And that's the time to do it because any sort of lodging or facility that we build, you don't want to be going through that process when it's open. You want to be ready for that. You want to spend that time wisely in that downtime. So the answer to your question, the revenue comes from many sources. Your benefit as a member is that if we have more people on property, you're going to have the restaurant open more than 1 night a week. You're going to have breakfast service. You're going to bring your guests from out of town and actually be able to use your club fully and not have it be dark a lot of the time.
Larry, when you give them the microphone, make sure they hold it to their mouth because we can't pick it up on the speaker for the webinar.
Hi, Sean. Steve Karen. I don't know, maybe I'm old school, but my mom taught me to talk is cheap and actions are more important. Why is the company unwilling to put more in the document as far as what's going to be done and what's going to be preserved?
The answer to that question is that we don't know exactly what's going to be done. This is a negotiation process, and we are committed to the property. $3 million is a lot of money. If we assess the members, that's a lot of money. We're committed to the property. Obviously, if we're buying the property, $3 million's not ever that's going to be put into this place. Let's be real here. I mean, if we're buying this property, we're not going to put $3 million and then have a huge return on our investment. There's got to be other things done to get us to the point where this is, you know, the best place to be and the best place to visit in North Carolina.
Yes, my name is Frank Rossi. John, my question, a two-part question, and it relates more to your membership that you're going to provide to our members. The first one is you've indicated that once somebody has 30 years as a member, you return their fee to them, which is going to be in your membership then. It's in your write-up.
So that is an example of documents that we use there. That is not an exact replica of what the membership that we'll use here.
That's stated in there as something you intend to do.
Now, if you read the fine print, Samuel would probably tell me that's an example of documents. We haven't provided you with membership documents.
I understand you haven't provided bylaws, membership documents. You use the Grand Del Mar as an example, but you lay out points about the golf course, how
Yep.
people are going to use it, and I think you pretty much made a commitment how people get their money back after 30 years.
Yes, that was a refundable deposit. And then there's another category called a non-refundable deposit. And just like North Carolina, San Diego hit a recession in the golf business around 2010, 2011. And we have at our place a refundable membership and a non-refundable. And since 2011 at the Grand, we have sold non-refundable memberships. Those are sold at $50,000 per membership, and they're non-refundable. And so those aren't refundable.
I understand. But the ones that are refundable, we put a 30-year time on it. Those of us who've been members here for 20 years or more, do we get grandfathered in that situation? Or is that yet to be determined?
Yeah. Yet to be determined, but we, you know, you don't have to rejoin. Yeah.
The reason I ask that is the second part of my question. I'm a founding member, have been around for a long period of time. Founding and charter members have separated their membership property from the membership and are free to resign from the club if they so choose, and they have no property title. If we followed your Grand Del Mar membership thing, if I were to come to your membership, sign a membership agreement, my property would be locked back up with my membership. I don't believe I'd be able to sign your membership agreement if you do that. So the fact that you haven't given us your bylaws, your membership arrangements, the first rule of Wayne Milwaukee is never give up your left hand that's secure if your right hand is not secure. And that's basically what we're being asked to do. I don't know how I could do that, quite frankly. You're trying to, if you go with a Grand Del Mar membership, I don't know if our members realize this, but for them to stay a member, if they have a property, the only way out for them would be to sell their property. And you got to go through the membership process. You don't have a resignation program in Grand Del Mar, except for the Grand Del Mar members who have to pay liquidated damages of years to get out. I've read this out of your documents.
Right.
And if I, as a founding member, do not want to sell my property, or would like to leave the club, it says I have to stay here and pay dues until somebody buys my property. That's what's in your agreement. So going back to the whole membership thing, if I'm going to give up something here at Forest Creek.
That's a villa owner membership that you're looking into. Those are people that have fractional ownership, and they paid $550,000 on average. That's a villa membership that you're getting confused by. And so
Show us somewhere that we can rely on the fact that the ability for people to resign and keep their property separate from the membership. I don't get that out of your documents. The reason I'm raising this, I'm having wonderful experience at other clubs doing the same thing. And I'm not going to be tied to a club where I got to wait for somebody to buy my property or membership to get out. And if that's a potential risk. Quite frankly, until I see your bylaws and your membership agreement, I can't give a positive vote for doing that because I'm not sure what I'm getting into.
So you're worried about leaving the club?
I'm worried about the membership provisions. Leaving the club would be part of it. I don't want to be held for 2 years dues. I belong to a club where once you resign, you got to pay 2 years dues to get out.
So ours is 1 year's dues?
One for one type of membership.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the other types of membership you're going to have.
I think you're getting worried about something that I wouldn't worry about.
I'm sorry. I don't have any agreement with any other knowledge of what's going to happen. So it is something I'm worried about. And I don't have any definition from the future membership.
Frank, I think what we want to do is take a look at what we have versus what we will have. If you,
So I'm trying to find out what we will have.
okay, what you have now is property that's not tied to your membership because you do not have to own property. There's nothing contemplated in terms of changing. If you want to sell your membership now, you still have to sell your membership, and that would not be any different. I guess I'm looking at the difference what you think you have versus what you fear you might have.
You don't have to sell your membership now.
No,
At the club you resign.
you can. I'm looking at wanting to recover value. I'm assuming you want to recover value from your membership.
If I don't want to cover value and I want to resign.
Questions only, please. No debates. I think, too, the document says that what's included on the Grand Del Mar membership is a similar type document. It doesn't say that it'll be the same. It's a similar type document.
Lincoln Ellie. The question I've got is, we have a history here of having 4 3-day tournaments during the season, including a practice round. Women's member guest, men's member guest, member pro, and actually member support, excuse me. How would you manage that where we take up 2 golf courses and still be able to serve your hotel guests? And if you're not able to give us the 3 days of the golf course, what would be the solution to that problem for those 4 events?
So with one golf course, the way you manage those type of events is you do shotguns at either the morning time or midday. You do either an 8 o'clock in the morning shotgun or you do a 1 o'clock, and you reserve half of the course for, resort play or whatever. With 2 golf courses, that's a dream. Using both golf courses, I'm sure you can find one of the 2 golf courses for half a day to get out whatever play is at the property. I feel like the member guests, the members, the ladies invitationals, all that is a big part of our marketing and recruiting. So that's a big part. We're not gonna step on the toes of those events. Those are the events that I'm looking forward to meeting more of you and more of your guests. Did I answer your question? Okay.
I'm Susan Rising, patient. I have a question that I think, from what we've heard already, the document is so complex, but very non-specific. So the time frame of 10 days to read it, muse over what is said in there, how did that come about? And for some of our members, they did not get a full 10 days to July 3rd. They had about 7. So
I would actually defer that to them. I've been very open to basically when you were ready for me to come and talk to you, and so this is when I was told to come. So I've passed up a trip to Italy for 75th birthday of Papa Doug on a yacht to be here. So.
does that mean that we would have the possibility of longer than July 3rd?
You'd have to take that up in the second part of the meeting. I think that's a better question for this.
So that's not an MFG's requirement.
No, that's an FCI issue, so we'll look forward to talking about that in the second half.
Okay.
Thank you.
Larry, let me do 2 quick online questions. These are a couple questions that came in online, Sean, and I think we know the answer to this, but what happens to founders' rights who sell their property, which a lot of us have done, but still retain a membership?
Sell the property, but retain. You'd still be a member, right? I mean, you're currently members. Everybody that has a membership now, when we turn this over, is a member. And at that point, we're all equal, we're all the same. There's no more founders, this level, that level, they're all members. And then what we're going to do is write the membership documents, and as we said if you read them, we've locked in the membership price for 1 year at $50,000. You know, we've waived card fees and all this stuff that we've talked to and worked with FCI on. So we want you to stay as members.
The second question, I've heard this several times, what will prevent MFG from selling Forest Creek to someone after you've done the development, someone like Pinehurst?
That's a question that obviously is something that you guys have to understand, the type of company that we are. What are we coming in here to basically build something to flip it, or are we building something that's a legacy to the Manchester family, to Douglas Manchester, who played golf at Wake Forest, for him to be involved, for us to use this model to build another facility in another state? I mean, North Carolina has not seen a property like this, the potential for a lodge. There's nothing here, there's nothing like this anywhere. We can't go replicate this down the road. And the opportunity here is to build something that can be passed on for generations and generations.
I'm Dr. Pierce. I got a question. I'm very small. Tell us about your other developments. There are 5 diamond resorts. Tell me the cost of staying in a resort and how you handle it. How many new members have you gotten at your resort since you built the resort? The difference of quality. I checked in and you guys run great facilities. You're recognized by the Marriott Corporation as one of the better operators. So you're not going to bring in Motel 6. You're bringing in a quality upscale lodge that brings in quality people that will not be wearing t-shirts and jeans. Right. They'll be going to a Ritz-Carlton type operation. Yeah, the question is, tell us how many new members you've gotten in your other resorts since you started building your lodges out west.
So the answer is, you know, over the course, we went private on July 1st of 2006. We have 200 members at our property. You know, we, attrition-wise, have about 6 or 7 people that leave a year. We filled our membership about 3 years ago. I have a couple memberships available. It's typically for people that, you know, don't use it as much as they want to, or they move out of town. I mean, if you're asking about our membership, I mean, we're in a pocket of San Diego that is in the hills, and it's the most beautiful, you know, property. And we've got a 5-star resort that's a #1 rated TripAdvisor hotel in the United States 2 years ago and this year. We know how to operate, and our membership has a blend of, you know, many ages, because we're in an area that has a lot of families. So I have a lot of experience with juniors and programs for juniors and things like that. But I've also spent 10 years at La Jolla Country Club, where the average age member is 68. And so it depends on what pocket of town you're in San Diego for what kind of age group that you have. But basically, from an operation standpoint, you know, Mr. Manchester's been in the business for over 30 or 40 years. And, you know, his track record is as good as any.
My name is Susie Bowles, and looking at the membership agreement with the club in San Diego, it's kind of hard to tell. How would you handle if a member resigned? Both if they just resigned and wanted to get the value from the membership, or if they just want to resign.
We haven't 100%, we've gotten to this point, and the next position will be coming up with the membership documents. I mean, there's nothing in our favor to penalize one member leaving, because that is going to spread like wildfire to your friends who are thinking about joining. So it does us no good to come with some new clause, or you got to pay dues for 5 years before you can leave, or do these type of things, because reputation in this business is everything. And I'm going to have to answer the questions from you people on why you can't get out or why you can't. It's a process that we're going to evaluate, but we have no benefit to raise dues 50%, do all these crazy things that everybody's got their minds wrapped around that could happen. We're the ones that actually would be the most hurt by that, because we won't end up with any members.
But in the document for the San Diego property, it said you would be liable for dues for 12 months if you resign.
Correct.
For one membership. No, let's not.
I mean, is that how, and that was the only membership example.
Yes. Right.
So is that pretty much what it would be?
It's undecided. I'm sorry, ma'am. I wish I could give you that answer, but sorry.
Okay.
Dennis Portio. Not John.
Hi.
I just had a couple of quick questions. One, we keep talking about this documented members' rights contract, whatever you want to call it. You guys have had past 90 days to get it done. Give us some insight into why it isn't done. You can see what it's doing to all these people. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what's happening to us in the future. And good common business sense would have said by now you would have had a document for us and would know what's happening.
So the answer to that question is it's not as easy as you think to sell a golf club, especially when you have stockholders, you have other members, you have lots involved, you have rights involved. There's a lot. It's complicated. Everybody thinks that you can just sit down and in a couple weeks and write out a contract like that. There's very many moving parts, and I know that everybody wishes we may have taken a vote after we got done speaking back in February, but it takes time. And I'm here with the same presentation. I could have done the same presentations with slideshows and all that kind of stuff. Manchester is, the only thing that's going different in his life is he's getting very close to becoming the ambassador of the Bahamas. Other than that, nothing has changed. We're here, we're committed, and we want to move forward. And so,
I understand that, but as a follow-up, I'm not talking about the business process associated with contracting a business and selling it. I'm talking about us having to look at, this is what we do at Del Mar, and it'll be something like this for you. Why would it be so difficult to have that completed and done for us at this point in time? That's the question.
So you're talking about the membership documents?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the basis of about 7 questions.
Yeah. Right. I understand. We're still in a process here where the membership has a vote, and then there is a due diligence period in time. Those types of things, we've incurred, just like you've incurred, we've incurred a lot of costs, and those things aren't without, a lot of costs. And we've got an idea what we want to do, and Sam's going to help us with that process. But you don't want to put the cart before the horse sometimes, and we want to get your support. And I think you're.
The cart is before the horse because if you can't see the horse, we can't get in the cart.
Right. Yeah.
Second question. On February 27th, you guys made an offer of $22 million. Okay. 5 business days later, it turned into $15 million. Can you speak to what happened in those 5 business days that would be agreed to the purchase of this club or the valuation of this club by over 33% or 32% or whatever it turns out to be. $7 million.
That's the Manchester Financial Group decision, and that, you know, that has a lot to do with what needs to be done here. You know, the improvements that need to be made, and we, you know, are committed to spending that money to make this place, you know, what it needs to be successful.
I'm sorry, I think that's a key issue. I just want to say one thing, everybody understands the context. Manchester did not make an offer. They were approached, and the number was talked about as $22 million. They were intrigued by the concept. They came here and saw the property. And after the fact, they realized there's going to be more of an investment that would be necessary. So they went back to their business people. They looked at the number they could offer. So it wasn't as if they made an offer and then took it off. They were approached. The discussion continued. They saw the property, and it was the increase in cost that caused them to change or to go to a different number.
Sean Donovan. Question concerning the structure of memberships. I'm wondering if you're able to tell us whether there will be the same sub-classifications of membership, such as out-of-state members, retired members, social members, and with them, the same type of membership fee accommodations, and due accommodations, I should say.
In the industry, it's very common, you know, you join a club in your family that's 30 to 40 years old, that there might be a different joining fee structure. If you're, you know, 75, 80 years old and you've been a member for, you know, 35 years, there's a very common practice to have a different due structure. There's a very common practice to be out of state and use the club at, you know, less because you don't live here. It's very common in the industry. We need to evaluate that. Understand that writing membership documents, back to your question, it's not a, you know, it's not a cheap process. You know, it's a $100,000 plus process to you know, write those type of documents. And it's one of those things that we have an idea where we're going to go, but we need to keep this process moving. And what you know is that the 200 members that we have love where they're at, and there has never been something that basically has come up that they were sold a bill of goods that wasn't what they got. Again, our biggest asset is you as members.
Another question with regard to the inception procedure, the membership inception procedure. Will the members have an opportunity to review the membership plan before they're committed to membership?
So you're saying before you transfer at the sale date to a new membership, will you have an opportunity to read the documents? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, you have the option to opt out, but we don't know if those documents will be completed in that 30-day period. You know.
This was an internet question, and I think it dwells a lot on what's been discussed and asked. How long will it take to draw up membership documents?
My estimation, it'll be about 30 to 60 days to get those done. So. Yeah, from the end of due diligence.
Hi everyone, Miles Washburn. Kind of surprised this hasn't been asked yet, and you brought it up a moment ago when you mentioned dues. You said it's not in our interest to increase our dues by 50%. When you were here last, I think you said it was January, you asked what our dues were, so we said that we pay cost me $1,000 a month. You say, wow, that's on the high end of private. I notice in your document, our dues won't change guaranteed until January 1st of 19. So I was kind of surprised by that. And if we're at the high end of private, we're going to go to semi-private, and we have about a year and a half where, not even a year and a half, quite frankly, where you'd be doing renovations on the golf course, and of course it's going to be closed. We're paying a lot of money on the high end of private for semi-private. We're paying more than what we're really getting. And I was really surprised that you guys said you're going to leave the dues the same. I was actually kind of disappointed in that.
So do you believe you have the best product in town?
Not anymore.
No, not at all. And I'm
So
not,
we're going to create that.
You asked me a question.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe we have the best product in town right now. But using your words, $1,000 a month on the high end of private, we're going to go to a semi-private and not have 2 golf courses at our disposal and all that fun stuff. We're not going to be, in my opinion, we should not be on the high end of private for our dues. And like I said, I was very disappointed to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a negotiated term that the seller asked for. We're going to be putting money into the property to deserve every penny that you pay in dues. We're going to be providing amenities that aren't currently available.
I'm Larry Burrell. I have, I guess, 3 follow-on questions to what you asked before. Blake asked about, what do you do about tournaments? Your document has a what if that says if MFG needs access to both golf courses, they can get access to golf. You can get access to both golf courses for your purposes as much as 4 days a week, as much as 6 days in an 8-week period. But there's no similar provision that the members have. There's no flip side to that for the members, that if the members want both golf courses for 4 days in a week or 6 days in an 8-week period, that they get the same opportunity. It's a one-sided agreement. So to follow up on links, why is it a one-sided agreement that works only in your favor, but doesn't have a similar provision in favor of the members?
So the provision that's in there, a lot is written about during times of overseeding, construction type things.
There's nothing about that. It says at your.
I was starting to give you the full deal. Yeah. So those type of provisions give us the opportunity, if there is events that could bring exposure to the property. That's what those are. It could be things like U.S. amateurs, could be things like that. For the membership to get together, to need the course for 4 days to match what you're saying, that what we're putting in the contract, those would be very rare in the industry. The 3-day member guest, that, as I spoke about earlier, that's part of what we're going to be. We're going to be a private golf club. We're going to have the best member guest in town. It's going to feel like a private experience. And I can guarantee you, the other clubs in town aren't going to have, the feel that our member guest will. We're going to take what you've done and try to make it even better. And so, I don't know of a golf club where the membership would come up with an event that wouldn't be the same event that we would have in mind.
But in fact, we currently do use 2 golf courses for several days, several times a year, as Link pointed out. So I'll say it is, there's no provision in there that there's no provision in there that contractually gives the members the right to do that in the future. But and I understand why you would want it for all the reasons you explained. I just said there may be reasons why the members would want it too, and that's not the flip side. Is not right.
Guys, question and answer only. We're not debating the contract here, so please. I understand.
The second question, follow-up question I is one of the statements that was made back in January, February was that it would be only fair if the FCI investors got all of their money back as a result of the deal. And in fact, you signed not just a conversation, but a letter of intent that had enough money in it to achieve that goal. But something happened, etc. So just a point, and maybe it's not a question, it seems to me that the $3 billion that you're going to put in the golf course is coincidentally the same number that's the difference between 65% and 100% of the FCI investors put in. Coincidentally, it's the same number. So
There's two parties here. There's Manchester Financial Group and there's FCI. We are paying $15 million. Where the money goes to the right places, wrong places, that is FCI. And we didn't involve in that in any way. Putting us bidding a certain amount, knowing something behind the scenes is no way what we did or what we intended. And we
see the document, you know the outcome is different than what you said. That's all.
Yeah.
One more question. I have heard, I don't know. Has Manchester Group sold a substantial part of its interest in Grand Del Mar?
They have. We are a minority owner at the Grand Del Mar. I still operate the facility. He still owns a significant piece of it, and he 13. Yeah. Him opens a $500 million Fairmont Hotel in Austin in about 2 weeks in Austin, Texas. Actually, about 4 weeks in Austin, Texas, 1,100 room hotel that he's the sole owner of. So.
Hey, Sean, it's Earl Ellis.
Hi.
I want to go back to something that Susan Rosen brought up. This went on for a lot more time than Papa Doug and you and the group talked about early on. Went on for several months. We got the documents, and we supposedly had them for 10 days, which most people got them maybe in 8 or 7 or whatever. And we're here on 4th of July weekend, and we're glad you're here. We're sorry you got knocked out of your trip. I want to just go over one thing that you said a while ago. This was not your date and not Manchester's date. Is that correct?
What do you mean by that?
Well, did you say, is this a mandated, is Monday mandated by Manchester that we have to have our vote in?
That's an FCI question, Earl.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No,
we set the date. We set the date.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I'll ask
Answer.
But why did it have to be done in 10 days? Why couldn't it have taken a month? Do I have all these?
Again, it's an FCI question.
I think he answered it for me, so.
My name is Jerry Thorne. My question, Sean, is this. If you're going to spend $3 million on course improvements, do you have in mind, what you're going to do? That's a lot of money. 24 months is a short period of time. Everybody has their view of what needs to be done, but I'm curious to know whether you guys have actually thought about what you might start spending your money doing.
So your biggest advocate who has the most knowledge about the facility is Doug, your superintendent. I've had some conversations with him. He doesn't work for me. We don't own the property. It's a little premature to, there's some wish list items that he has. The first thing that the first pro Woody said for me is new cart paths. There's a lot of opinions and everything. We're going to evaluate everything. What I want to do is make sure that what we do has immediate impact that you say Manchester is committed to this property. That's the goal. You know, I heard a rumor about, are we just going to go buy rakes or something like that? You know, I talked to Doug today. I mean, I know that there's a lot of things in this industry that are very, you know, both-sided. Things like overseeding, things like that. There is, you know, I've already talked to Doug that if this passes, that when I get back here in a couple weeks, you know, we need to have an answer to that, because he needs to be prepared to do that in the fall. And, you know, whether that's 1 course or 2 courses, he's been here, he's worked here. I have, you know, my opinions on it. I'd like to, you know, have you have something that you want to bring your guests to this winter and next fall when we're doing other things around here that basically might distract from your experience.
Yeah, my name is John Dempsey. You said that the Grand Del Mar is the TripAdvisor #1 rated hotel in the United States. There are lots of hotels in the United States. That's an unbelievable accolade. Maybe you've already started to answer it, but I wonder, what are your plans to make, not that we TripAdvisor private clubs, but what are your plans, what will you do to have that same sort of accolade be the case in Forest Creek?
Well, there's 2 parts to that, because there's a rating for lodging and resorts and hotels, and then there's ratings for golf courses. You know, and obviously, if, you know, we look 60 days from now, you know, we won't be able to be rated as a hotel or a lodge. So the first goal would be to increase the ratings of the golf course, and mainly from the ratings of the members and the feedback of their guests, that something's happening around here. And, you know, I see it in a kind of in a stage process. The first stage of the process is get the golf courses. I've been here, you know, 3 times and 4 times in the last few months, and I've spoken to many of you, and what the golf courses were and what they are now, it's not up to what a lot of people would like it to be, and it needs some money. And so that's the first goal. And so, you know, I've got lots of friends at, you know, Golf Digest and golf magazines, but more importantly is the feedback of your guests and the feedback of the members, because sometimes rating systems can be, you know, bought, so to speak, in our business. If you ever notice, there's a few casinos that are rated high in the golf side of things. The reason why we're actually proud of TripAdvisor, because TripAdvisor is based on a system where they go online and they pull comments from guests about your property, and there's key words that they find, both positive and negative. And TripAdvisor has nothing to do with us paying somebody for training or paying something. It's based solely on the feedback that you get from people. And that's the most important thing.
Sue Casey. My question's around how do you determine outside play? When you were here in February, you talked about building a lodge, and in my opinion, I guess I assumed that would govern outside play. And recently, today, you said that, you know, cost, money would kind of govern the type of people that would come here, and I subscribe to that. However, in the document, it says that you will possibly build a lodge. So I have 3 questions. A, are you possibly building a lodge, or are you definitely building a lodge? And then there's another section in the document that says there will not be a, quote, prominent sign out front. So will there be a sign out front that won't be prominent to you? And then thirdly, as part of that, how will you determine outside play during the time period where there is no lodge?
Okay, there's a few questions in there. You want to guarantee about the lodge and when it'll be built and all that kind of stuff. That, you know, we had this last meeting here, and Mr. Manchester came the next day. Earl, you were with him. We walked around. There's many opportunities here in this area. You know, the final plans for what the lodge is going to be and what it's going to look like aren't finalized. Our mission from that day till now is to close the transaction. I can't tell you how many countless hours I've spent on the phone with Stan and John and the attorneys and everything. The focus has not been on what color are the sheets going to be in the rooms. The focus has been on, let's get this transaction done. And that's basically what we've been doing for the last 3 months. And so the focus has not been writing the membership documents. The focus has been finishing this transaction, and it's been a back and forth. You know, until we get a lodge built, you know, that's a concern of yours. You know, this is not, you know, this is not the type of place that is demanding a low green fee or something like that. You know, there's travel agents in the business that can send us business, and we need to do those types of things. We're not going to have online tea times. We're not going to have people show up to the front gate saying, I want to play here today. That doesn't do anything for us, and it doesn't do anything for our reputation. We need to get people here. We need to get the right people here. I need to hire salespeople that can prepare us in that process to get the right types of groups and people here.
Hi, Paul Sweeney. I'm from Scotland, so I'm going to ask a financial question. There doesn't seem to be any differentiation between people who invested in this golf club in this dire straits as FCI members and the rest of the population. Is there any discussion about that amongst you? It's probably not for you, it's probably for John.
Yeah, we'll do that in the second part. Yeah, that's a FCI question.
Why wouldn't you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to know you're distributing it. We'll talk about how it applies.
All right, about 4 more minutes of questions.
I'm a little confused as to when to ask or who I should respond to a question, ask a question. I am Rich Rosen. I'm president of the 4th Street Property Owners Association. And I have some concerns. And who would I address this to? To FCI or to MFG?
Yeah, FCI will take that question. And we want to work with you just like we've worked with them.
My name is Jim Schneider. I have a simple question. Will require a simple answer. Based on what I've heard so far, when you're writing the membership document, would you commit to work with a group of members to perfect the document so everybody's? Would you work with a group of members to perfect that?
I would think that the board here and getting to know them, they know that my character, they know that I've worked with them, and so I don't see why, you know, I wouldn't go to them first, figure out what's been in the past, and work with them. We're not going to do anything on an island when it comes to the membership thing. I want to get it right.
Robert Sedovey. Question I have is we have roughly 400 members right now. What's your goal as far as membership? Are you looking to increase the membership, keep it stable, decrease it? Because obviously if you're looking to decrease it or keep it stable, that makes our memberships less fundable. So what's your plan?
Our plan as both a real estate holder and as a golf club manager and operator is both twofold. You know, we want to create a place that's going to help drive business to the community that will help your real estate prices, will help our real estate prices, and it is in benefit of us. The more people that we get that are members amongst the community, and this is the place to be, that's our goal. What that number is right now today, we don't know what that is. You know, it's encouraging that we're seeing new people move into the neighborhood and new homes being built, but the goal would be to have more neighbors and have them want to join the club and have more activities for you to do here at the club.
All right, I'm going to conclude that part of the discussions. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess and then come back. So I'll call it back to order in just a few minutes. in 2 minutes. If you'll take your seats, please. Sean has agreed to stand outside in the main lobby if you have extra questions to ask him while we're conducting the FCI meeting. Our second session will begin with Stan Bradshaw. He is going to take you through the steps that FCI has gone through with the MFG deal. So if you please sit down, we'll get back to order here. Stan Bradshaw has been involved with FCI for about 4 years. He's only been on the board 2 years, but he was involved several years prior to that with the financial and helped us secure loans back several years ago. He's been heavily involved with the FCI and the MF. You cannot hear me? Sorry. He's been heavily involved in the FCI and MFG transaction over the last 6 weeks. He'll walk you through our steps in getting here, and we'll be able to answer almost any question that you've got regarding the deal. Stan.
Thank you, John. I'm sorry I've not had a chance to meet as many people as I'd like to here. I unfortunately still pretty much working full time, and as my wife says, I've broken the 14 club rule, so I don't get on the property as often as I'd like, but I love being here, and Forest Creek is clearly my first love, my favorite golf club. And we definitely want to make sure we come out of this better than we've ever been, and I think we're all in the same boat. So I like for our conversation to be collegial. We're club members, and I do think we all have the same interest. And so again, I want to explain a few things. A lot of the questions that were being asked of Sean earlier, I think are something that's kind of more inside baseball to us. So I'm going to be here for as long as you want to be, and there's no question that's out of bounds. There may be questions that aren't answerable because there's no answers, and I'll tell you that as well. So anyway, I have been involved with FCI for 4 years, kind of watched our dilemma as to what we are, where we're going to go, and how we're going to get there. And one thing's pretty clear when you look at the last 4 years, we needed to change something. Clearly, the model that we adopted back in the 90s, which is somewhat popular back in the 90s, stopped working. And it stopped working for a lot of people in the business. You know, one thing we looked at, of course, we've experienced a compound annual decline in membership for the last several years. That we have 100 fewer members net. So while new members are coming in, we have 100 fewer members net than we had in 2013. As you know, we raised the dues fairly significantly, so we are the highest club club in town. And in spite of raising our dues, because also the loss of membership, we're still looking at an operating deficit. The club itself is not throwing off any positive cash flow. And as a nonprofit club, as most clubs do, you aren't expecting to generate a profit, but we have a deficit. And it's a deficit that's preventing us from being able to maintain our courses. I mean, what is the backbone of any golf club? It is our golf courses. We know how special the courses were in the late 90s and even later than that, but what they've not been living up to our expectations the last few years. So we've not been able to maintain them. We need a significant infusion of cash and capital to change the trajectory on that. You know, Forest Creek Realty used to be a very strong support to the overall program because in the late 90s, selling golf properties was a lot easier. It's become very difficult the last several years, and they've not been able to sell enough property to generate the kind of cash that changes the financial trajectory that we're on. And so every pro forma that we've done has basically failed, and that is we look our expectations for the next 12 months, we end up with fewer members than we thought, fewer revenue, costs continue to rise, and it's not been a very good picture. It's one that you can only extrapolate so long, and you don't want to look. So what we're looking at is, what would this kind of a transaction do for us? Well, the first thing it's going to do is the day the deal closes, Manchester will be responsible for all operating deficits. That's an issue that I'm not sure we're totally comfortable about how we're going to fund the operating deficits even the last half of this year, much less next year if the trajectory stays where it is. But if the deal closes, Manchester will be handling all the operating deficits. They're immediately going to be expending $3 million into golf courses. Somebody said earlier that $3 million in 24 months sounds like a lot of money in a short period of time. I had dinner with Sean last night, and he has a lot more ideas than maybe he shared today, but when you look at our courses, think about what you'd like to do with the bunkers. Think what you'd like to do with the irrigation so that you have better turf. Think of what you'd like to do with the cart paths. There's a lot of places you can spend money, and to know that you can put $3 million into the course in 2 years, we will go back to having the kind of property we were so proud of and bringing guests here in the late 90s. Of course, Manchester, we're only hinted on it a little bit, but let's look at who these people are. They do have several resorts that you can take a look at. They are 5-star, they are high quality, they're very professional people. To think they're going to come in here and lower our standards, I'm sorry, I can't quite say that with a straight face. These are people who are consummate professionals. They have had the job of trying to meet the discriminating taste of people who like to go to 5-star resorts. Now, Sean talks about every customer, every club member being his customer. His job is to keep you happy. He's going to come in and elevate standards. He'll also be listening to his customers. If something needs to be tweaked one way or another, then they'll be tweaking it one way or another. The idea is it's only successful if the membership is happy and growing and our reputation is being enhanced. We get higher ratings at all the golf panels. We get higher ratings for the quality of the lodge if it gets built. You know, it is the idea that they want to do something special here. You're not going to put in $15 million on closing, plus another $3 million in the first 2 years, take one of the top managers and move his whole family here. No one's coming here to turn this into a muni. And that's just sort of a common sense issue. They're going to try to preserve as much of the private club experience as possible. They're talking about keeping locker rooms private, the to-be-built women's locker room private. And thank you, ladies, for having been so patient with us for so long on that. So again, just a lot of the issues of selling real estate, what does that mean to us, and some of that drama all goes away. So again, I think you have to also look at what else might we be able to expect. And that is, again, they do have a reputation. They've stated their intentions. And if you're a business person, you run your own business, you don't want to have a lot of handcuffs. It says, I'm going to do exactly this in 15 months. I'm going to do exactly this in 36 months. Things change. 9/11 changed a lot of things. The financial crisis of 2008 changed a lot of things. When I was running a bank, I wanted to make sure I moved when the opportunity was there, but when the markets changed, I wasn't going to throw good money after bad. That's just what prudent business people want to do. So they want to do these issues, but they're not able to tell us exactly what and exactly when. I think that once Sean gets here, he'll have stronger opinions about, well, do we do the bunkers first, do we do this first, or what have you, and how fast do we want to put up the lodge. So that's somebody who's going to be dynamically managing their business with a goal of making this property more special and more attractive to more people. I do know, I've talked to a lot of members who've been wanting out of this club for a long time. You can't get out unless you sell your membership. And there's not a long line of people out on Airport Road waiting to come in. So I know somebody's been holding onto their membership for 5 years, and to keep the equity in that, they're paying their dues. I think if you look at the kind of interest that might be generated by this type of an operator with an international reputation, there could be more interest, more people wanting to buy your membership, and therefore you actually have more liquidity than you have today. And I was trying to talk a little bit with the idea with Frank is, what do you have today and what can we have? And maybe it doesn't apply to his issue, so I probably shouldn't have said that, but the issue is if you want to leave today, you get what you invested in your membership plus 50% of the appreciation if you can find a buyer. We think Manchester will cause more buyers to be ready, but they've also said we're going to pay you $50,000 for your membership, or you will be paid $50,000 by selling it, regardless if you only paid $25,000 for it. That's a financial benefit. And you'll get 75% of any increases that happen after the day. So what they've tried to talk about is what is it we can do to kind of put some minimum standards of performance in that cause people to be comfortable, and then are the other issues that we'd like to have the kind of issues that there should be some kind of a trust factor. So we want to make sure that $3 million are going into the courses immediately. We want to make sure that we have access to, of course, ourselves as members, no matter what else is going on. We want to have, again, the private spaces we have from the locker room, what have you. So we have some of those minimum standards that are in play. And if there are other issues that are really making the difference, you know, we can talk about those issues. One of the things that Sean was talking about is not having the membership plan ready. He looked at our membership plan, he looked at how many different categories we had and wondered, do we really need all of those? So let's sit down and talk about the specifics. So I think when that membership agreement gets drafted, he'll find out what the status is of a founder who no longer owns real estate and therefore they're a different kind of status. They are talking about being able to grandfather the current membership in, and maybe somebody that comes longer after that to take advantage of our resort may not get the rights that we have today. But the question is, what are your rights? And I feel pretty comfortable about that. I know there's a lot of difficult questions that were asked, we said are going to be done in this session. So why don't I just kind of stop talking and bring it on. We'll stay collegial and I'll answer all your questions to the extent there are some. Link?
Link Melee. Stan, when you were approached by, when we were approached by Manchester Group and you received the LOI, did you then go out and hire a broker to solicit other offers? If not, why not?
We did not do that. We were basically in that period of time in January, looking at the dilemmas I was talking about, operating deficits, need to invest, where do we go from here, looking at solutions. Two people, a member of this club, solicited the Manchester Group thinking that was the solution. Looking at, again, all the things we talked about in terms of what they've done, track record, and basically went to them with the idea and talked about Forest Creek, kind of sold the concept, if you will. And because Doug Manchester was a former member here, they did understand the property, understand the culture, and said, yeah, there's an opportunity. And so they kind of sold that, and they were told that the price tag was $22 million. That out of hand, without really knowing all the details, was not enough to stop them from proceeding, so the conversation began. It's once they got here, and they looked around, and each of you can tell us better about where the deferred maintenance is. We have a significant amount, and the cost to get it to where they would like to get it is going to be more expensive than they thought. That's where the price was adjusted down. That's what their business people in San Diego told us, and that's all I think that really is known, and I take it at face value. Yep.
So why didn't you hire the broker?
Okay, well, in terms of hiring a broker, auctioning an asset is seldom the right answer. If you've got a solution that basically gives you what you need, and it looked like it was basically more than anybody, when you take, for example, what's the value of an asset? Present value of future cash flows could be a definition by a lot of financial people. When you got a negative cash flow, where's the value? So again, you looked at what was being offered to us or what was being discussed at that point in time. You think that you were going to be able to improve that by putting out an auction. First of all, you know what the pilot and all the newspapers say, Forest Creek's up for auction. It smells of bankruptcy. Whatever value would have been here would have run out fast.
So my comment is to get the greatest return for FCI and the members here, why didn't we hire a professional broker that you would typically do to sell your business, to find 20 different candidates who would be interested in whatever deal you've got to offer, and then whittle it down or boil it down to 2 or 3 offers, and then determine which deal is the most successful, if it will be the most successful if we want to take one.
Well, again, the issue is were you likely to find greater value? That you had a transaction that you were looking at. You want to find the right partner. If you're looking at only the best interest of FCI, would you want to sell to, pick a name, Connell or what have you? You're going to get some amount of money for the FCI investors. What does the club experience look like after that? And then there are also people who would be less favorable to members. When you looked at somebody who was a member, who understood the culture, talked about trying to intertwine the public lodge, if you will, with the private membership, it looked like the right fit. And when you take a look at what's going on in the golf industry, and you talk to a lot of people in the golf industry, we talked to several different people who are directly involved in it. There was nothing that was coming close to what we were talking to originally. So it looked like it would have been a lost effort and a waste of time. Yep.
With regard to the $3 million on the golf course, I haven't seen the numbers lately, but historically we've spent about $1.5 million every year on the golf course already. It's a 2-year period, it's about $3 million. And are you assured that the $3 million they're going to spend is above and beyond the normal maintenance that we already kind of spend pretty much every year?
Yes.
Rich Rosen, and I have a concern from Property Owners Association. I'm president, and we were just made aware of a document yesterday that pertains to the sale. And I've prepared some remarks because I think this is very important for everybody to understand. First of all, I hope everybody has read the document. Beginning with section 7.1.5 through section 7.1.7 are conditions which the POA must fulfill. At no point was the POA board or its attorney, County Scarborough, contacted regarding these provisions. Yesterday morning, the buyer sent to Talmadge, our attorney, a separate document that must be executed by the POA for the sale to be finalized. Talmadge has communicated to the buyer's attorney that he will not be able to study or meet with the POA board and render a legal opinion on such short notice. It will be after the 4th of July that this can be done. I can tell you that your POA board met last night. One member was absent, and we voted unanimously that the terms as presented are unacceptable. A letter was sent this morning by the POA attorney to the attorneys for the FCI managers and the buyer indicating such. Let me give you the reason, just a couple bullet points. MFG wants to operate the guardhouse, but the POA pay all costs and utilities, maintenance, and renovation for MFG needs. Number 2, MFG wants an easement to all roads in Forest Creek over, under, on, and through. For the use of these roads, MFG will pay a one-time fee of $10.
Rich, let me ask.
This is important.
No, I want you to give the floor back. I want to put some more information out, and you continue, but I want to put it all in the right context. We were asking for a copy of the document that they wanted with the POA for a long time. This transaction was actually called off at least one time. They were not looking at whether this was going to be successful. So rather than waste a lot of time drafting a membership document that thought might not be applicable, or drafting a POA document they thought might not be applicable, they did not do those.
Why didn't you consider the POA?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. So we basically kept talking about, we need these documents. Not believing we would actually get to where we are today, they did not do that. This was a tactical error on their mistake, on their part. We'd like to have had that document out and been engaged. So here's where we are, and this is what I want you to feel more comfortable about. This transaction, in order to close, there will be conditions precedent to closing. If it's approved by the members on Monday, that will still have to happen in 30 days. One of which is the POA agreement has to be completed. The one they gave you is what any attorney will do. They'll give you a document drafted for one side. It's their first volley. It asks for the whole world and promised nothing. I saw the document for myself first time yesterday. I did not like any part of it.
Well, the membership needs to know what's in that document.
Well, let me finish. Rich, excuse me. Let me finish. I'm right in the middle of a conversation. Here's what. I had one point I wanted to make that I hadn't made yet. No, let me. What you don't know is you have the control. If we don't get a document to your satisfaction, you don't close in 30 days. My point being, you've got the hammer. Know that. What I'm saying is you've got a hammer, and now we're going to use it. We've never had it until now. Now,
I'll start again. MFG wants an easement to all roads in Forest Creek. Over, under, on, and through. For the use of the roads, MFG will pay a one-time fee of $10. It is stipulated that the POA will pay all costs and repairs and maintenance of the roads with no participation by MFG. These roads will be available for use by MFG guests, employees, equipment, and the general public. The third point, MFG will have the right to place signs advertising Forest Creek to be open to the public with directional signs to the golf course, restaurants, fitness center, pool, etc. I want you to remember that these conditions are perpetual for the buyer and the buyer's successors, meaning to whomever they decide to sell. Point of information.
my only point is that contract is worthless. It was dead on arrival. Tactically, they should not have waited so long to get it to us, but now they can't close the deal unless we have a suitable document that we all agree in. We're going to talk, we want to know what we all want to put in. We're going to work with you, and there will be a document that you like, or there will not be a transaction.
Here, we signed a document yesterday, and here we are having a meeting determining our future with a document that may break the deal.
What you would consider is the approval of the deal would be subject to an adequate document. If it can't be done, it cannot be done. We're not going to subject the property owners to conditions that you will not approve of.
Ophelia Melly. So here's my question.
Okay.
All right. It sounds wonderful. I would love to have everything sounds wonderful. I would love to have a lodge. I would love to have a restaurant here 7 days a week. But I think that we're going on promises and trust. We're all old enough where we had a handshake with somebody who looks genuine, has a suit on, looks wonderful, and we say, this is going to work out. Here's my hand, shake it. And every single one of us, I'm sure, has been burned. I want to trust these guys. I really want this to happen. But when I read both documents, the POA document and the FCI contract document, I said, what are these men thinking? These are businessmen, and they're signing a document saying, we will trust you. This doesn't promise anything to us. It lets them do whatever they want. And Stan, you say, things can change. Well, yes, things can change, but give us a little more solid promises. We have lawyers for that, to write this and say, you fail, the deal's done. So I don't understand why these men in front of me, who I've always thought were good businessmen, are saying, trust them. Trust them. They've been successful. They've flipped companies. You know, are they going to flip us in 2 years? Are we going to be Fairmont?
You mean?
I mean, seriously, there's nothing in there to stop them.
Well, the Fairmont Grand Elmira is a 5-star property. If we could ever be that, I'd probably take it. But you're good, but you were asking good questions, and again, you need to take them down one at a time. We can't get them to guarantee all the things we'd like to in a perfect world, but what we can do is talk about what are the minimum standards that they have to perform on. And so we're talking about them taking the operating deficits, infusing money into the courts, and getting us in a much better position. And then as it relates to trust me, I wouldn't trust somebody who's never done it before. I wouldn't trust somebody who's betrayed somebody before. But what you can look at, these people run high-end properties, and the best money they have had here, it stands to reason they're not going to want to turn us into a muni or anything else that might be your worst fears. Okay, what would you want in writing more than what we already have in there? We talk about how we can grandfather, pardon me? Absolutely. I said that was dead on arrival. I never saw it until yesterday.
This is Larry. I like to make one comment about the documents. I did last night. It's a joke. But you know what? That's what negotiations are all about, Rich. I mean, get in there, you got to get him negotiated better. Nobody's going to take that deal. That was a joke. They sent it to us. They knew that was a joke. They were, I mean, they knew there was. That's the same thing I did. I sold my company, or when I bought companies, you fire something over the foul and expect somebody to come back.
Well, why send a document like that? It's costing the POA to defend this document and get another document drafted.
I said that it was a tactical error on their part. One thing I do know, Susan Casey's on that POA, and she's not going to approve a document that's not going to be the best interest of shareholders or owners. She not? I'll trust you anyway, Susan. I'll put you over there. Earl?
As normal, I'm going to be a pest. But I want to, and when I brought this up a while ago, and contrary to what John said, it was an entire club question because the rest of the club deserved an answer on this also.
Okay.
You, as our board, put a 10-day period on this. It came out a while ago, and they had nothing to do with this. So the fact, why do you, and I mean, I know what the answer is, but you can try to answer, why would you restrict this to 10 days when you could have made it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever, a reasonable amount of time where you can have several of these discussion groups and try to come to a conclusion. But it's got to be done by Monday, and you need to get your vote in. You guys have been making calls, and that's fine. I don't blame you. But, you know, it's...
During the period of time from when you brought the transaction to us in January, and there's been a lot of conversation with the SCI, and of course we had, you know, Sean come in for his first appearance in February. There's a tremendous buzz around the club. And the constant feedback that every one of us on the board got is, what's taking so long? Let's hurry up. What's going on? Let's find out what's going on. Let's get the thing done. Let's get moving ahead. And so the idea was, how quickly could we complete negotiation? Well, unfortunately, it took a lot longer than any of us expected. But then the issues are, we can't expect you to vote on a document without it being out for a certain period of time. 10 days meets the legal standard. We thought with the idea of it being out there, 10 days would be sufficient. There was every reason to think that it was a sufficient amount of time. We will find out come Monday whether it is or not. But when you look at the document, there's over 100 pages, but you see a lot of redundancy in there. The key issues are in that Exhibit J. What are we going to get as a minimum? And then the distribution of the proceeds and what have you. So there's really very few pages in there that are the essence of what we have as a deal.
You're right. I kind of started this whole thing, but it was an entirely different deal when Manchester was here.
Very well.
You cannot put something like that. It's going to change so many lives, and people that have homes and property in here, and say, you got to get this done. You got to get this done. And Hotbox says, you got to get it done. I don't have any problem with going. You want to take a month? You want to, make your calls and present it to everybody? That's fine. If it passes, it passes. Here. So, but give it at least let everybody see what it is, know what it is, have a few more discussions about it instead of trying to hotbox the thing.
Thank you.
period, if we get a membership agreement that's not what we want, and whatever other parts of it that are under the POA agreement, does that mean that the vote is canceled? Or what are the rights if at the end of that time period we don't get something we think is appropriate?
Good question. The question is, what are your minimum standards that have to happen between, say, an approval on Monday and an actual closing post their due diligence? The POA agreement has to be executed. Therefore, they've got the biggest hammer in the world. That's what could prevent this deal from closing. And that's when you get reasonable people on each side of a table that says, all right, this was a silly. You threw this out here with just a bunch of sterile legalese written from one side. Let's sit down and talk about what do we really want to do. I think we need to be paid some fees for their usage of our property. So we're all of a like mind, but we've never had an opportunity to have that conversation. Well, we now get one because Rich has got the hammer, and we're going to work with you to make sure that it has as much value or as much power as possible. On the membership agreement, they, again, did not want to go through the idea of drawing one up when they didn't think there was a transaction, so there's not time now. They're talking about modeling it after the Fairmont Del Mar. What Sean has indicated is that I have 400 customers, they're called members, and that we need happy members. So we need to look at the idiosyncrasies of your membership and how do we put them together. I've not seen anything in the other document that was applicable to us that was objectionable. So we will work together on that. That's where Sean wants happy people day one. So there should be a membership agreement we'll accept. Question in the back.
Change the subject a little bit. Doug Schwein, and I've done mergers and acquisitions a lot of my life, and I want to address the 10% commission on the sale. We bought a lot of companies. Our standard fee was we would give them maybe 5% on the first 1 or 2 million, and then either 1 or 2% after that. And it appears to me we paid 10% full vote. Never seen a deal like that in my life to Chuck Cordell. And I'd like to know why, because we should have been given an additional $1 million to the FCI members and less on the commission.
Fair question. I think everybody heard that, but it's been asked quite a bit. And I've done a lot of mergers and acquisitions also, where usually I'm starting off with a clean sheet of paper about how we're going to approach, what we're going to do, what have you. There's a lot that's here that has been dictated by history. So you start off with the fact that we have a contract with Forest Creek Realty. He's being paid 10% to sell all of our property. And therefore, that's where the 10% comes from. This transaction was brought to us in January as potentially the best salvation of our dilemma that we could have. And the question was, if we get a deal with Manchester that would be acceptable here, would you pay the same 10% fee? That's where it came from. It is a higher fee than I would look at in terms of selling a company or anything else, but it was part of what's inherited from the situation. So that was the offer made and what was accepted by. No, Chuck was not involved. Laura?
Marla Lang, two things. One, to follow up on the 10% question. Typically, those contracts only deal with the real estate valued at 10%. The actual assets that are owned as part of that $15 million shouldn't count towards that 10%, just as a aside. Generally, that's a real estate contract, not a asset contract.
Right.
So you did have a little negotiating on there. Second one is the fear. My question is, based on the reading of the documents, and please correct me if I'm not interpreting this properly, but should the vote pass on Monday, and we get into due diligence period, and an agreement cannot be met with the Property Owners Association that is agreeable to both sides, is it not true that at that point, if the deal falls apart, they have the option to remove those clauses so that they won't mess up the deal? But if it totally falls apart, FCI has to pay them not only their $150,000 deposit back, but also up to another $150,000 in all their legal costs and costs up to this point. My question is, that's what happens if we don't meet the conditions after Monday. Is that also what happens if we don't meet, if it doesn't pass on Monday? Because passing on Monday is one of the conditions. So does that mean if it doesn't pass, we also are on hook for the $150,000 in addition to their deposit back?
I think everybody probably got the gist of that question. In terms of what we on the hook for with cost-wise, we're basically having a number of costs that we will have to pay for non-performance, and by not being able to meet our reps and warranties. The actual costs, I may ask John Picaro to give me the actual details on that as it relates to well, again, our costs will only go up to the extent that we fail to perform, not on the approvals, but on reps and warranties and things of that nature. So the costs don't go up until after. Okay, yes.
So my question would be, to assign an agreement that has that clause in it without ever speaking to the POA about what you guys thought should be stuff that they should be willing to give up, seems like it was not probably a really good thing to do from an SDI perspective.
Okay. Well, again, the cost to us will be through non-performance, not of the POA and things like that. Those are issues that have to be in place. If they can't be made in place, like we can't get the vote of the members or the SCI, we can't get the contract of the POA, those do not trigger our penalties. Our penalties are triggered for non-performance activities unrelated to that. It'd be more like an...
The point she's trying to make is, once we pass the vote, if we were to pass this, there is a due diligence period, which is their opportunity to look at us, not our opportunity to look at them.
Correct.
And one of the things they're going to look at is these POA provisions. And if that is unsuccessful and the contract falls after it's been passed, will that then initiate their right to claim damages of up to $150,000 for the money they spent during the due diligence period, based on the assumption that all these things would happen? And if the answer to that question is yes, then why start the clock on $150,000 before you know whether you have a POA agreement that will work? Put off the vote until you know where you're going to be on the POA, so you don't run the risk of incurring $150,000 you don't have to incur if you just put off the vote.
During this period of time, people have rights to walk. If they're going to exercise their right to walk, it does not create penalties for us. There are a lot of costs already invested.
It does. If it's caused by certain things that you contracted, you would cause to happen, like the POA agreement, that you were unsuccessful in causing to happen. As long as I have the force, Dan, this is too nice, friends.
Sure.
You keep saying that there is an operating deficit.
Yes.
The only page in here that provides financial information shows that in every year shown, before considering land sales, this place is positive cash flow. Every year in here, these numbers say that this place is positive cash flow before considering land sales. So if you're going to say that, you ought to make sure that the document you send out supports what you said.
Okay, but you also were on the inside of the financials. If you look at what goes out to FCI on a quarterly basis, you do not see cash flows that are going to allow you to put $3 million in your courses.
I'm not saying that we got money slashing around, but we're not in by your own document.
But if you look at the declining revenues that are not being matched by declining sales. All right, I stand. We have operating deficits that we do not know how to make up. Larry?
So, Link Melly again. Stan, it's interesting listening to their plan, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we understand that the memberships have gone down, numbers are down, and what Manchester plans to do is to augment the lack of membership with outside corporate play, high-priced foursomes, and we hope that's true, and we expect that to be true. I'm sure that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Has the board considered doing the same, soliciting outside play for corporations, So opening the golf course to people that are staying at the hotel and would like to play, or don't want to play don't want to play 3, 5, 9, want to come over and play here for $1,000 a course. And we looked at marketing the club in that way, and I know that's a dramatic change from where we are currently today. But if you consider where we're considering going to, it seems to me this would be an intermediary step to throwing in the towel and selling everything we've got here. Because they're not investors, they're buyers. This is a purchase.
Your question is, have we considered doing the outside play ourselves? Well, there's been several members come through the SCI board through time, and sitting through several of the members, or sitting through all the meetings, I think to a person, everybody comes in with the anecdotes from this person who yelled that there was somebody who was not a member on my course today. What's this outside play? We've got to stop outside play. We want to be a private course. The biggest complaint I've heard about this transaction so far is that it's less private than it is today. So the feedback that everybody's been giving in high volume to every FCI member is, we do not want outside play. We want to stay private. And so what that might do is generate cash flow, but it would change the nature of this club. But what it would do, it would change the nature of this club without the infusion of the $3 million to renovate the courses, without the idea of a NASA registration system, reservation system that they could bring in their high-end guests that would help us. There's a lot that they bring to us that we couldn't do by ourselves. But it does happen with the downside. There's some people who are not members playing our courses. We would not do that to ourselves if we don't have the benefit. It was basically the loud noise we've been getting from membership about staying private.
Just follow up to that, and I understand that, you're absolutely correct. But it seems to me that we need to explain to our members that in order to accommodate the lower membership volume, that until such a time as that membership would get back up to a reasonable level where we could be entirely private and not offer any outside play, that there should be a plan and a program to allow outside play that the members should embrace, because they are essentially becoming, one-day members to participate in our beautiful golf.
Well, everybody can have an opinion about how you'd like to proceed forward. What we're trying to do is harness the will of what we've been hearing, what looks like a number of alternatives for our situation. And the issue is we only have really one alternative we can think of. If we're going to entertain outside play and become less private, do it with a high-end performer who's going to infuse cash in immediately and has a track record that says they're going to do things here that we're going to be proud of in 5 years. The idea of just bringing in outside play and not have the infusion, not change management, not change the dynamic that's really affecting us, it seems like it would have been, we'll buy 3 more years of time and see what happens.
Potential is there, the possibility is there. With Manchester, there is no potential.
The question I asked.
Yes.
The first half of the meeting, which John frankly preferred the second half of the meeting. But I deliberately asked it in the first half of the meeting, so a broader audience would hear it. I assume everybody here is an FCI.
Not necessarily.
Okay? That's not how it was done. Okay. Question again. FCI members, a subset of this group, rescued this club several years ago. You're paying us 65 cents on the dollar. It's the current proposal, right? 65 cents. What do we get beyond what a normal member gets?
Good question. I'm an FCI member, and a lot of FCI members are here. We're simultaneously trying to do what's best for the club that we're all members of, and everybody who invested in FCI basically was investing because they were trying to save their club. So you have kind of a dual obligation. What we want to do is be right by our shareholders, the FCI investors such as yourself, and get as much back as we can. This is a transaction that's getting you the minimum of 65 today, and when you look at all the contingencies and the setbacks in the escrow, we'd like to think that will grow to 70 through time, that a lot of the money that are set aside are conservative, but it is less than 100 cents on the dollar. So what the FCI members will get is they did save Forest Creek as an entity, and hopefully we're putting ourselves into a position that we will enjoy our membership better going forward, better conditions, better amenities, things of that nature. Now there would be up for people to decide, I like this or I like that, but Forest Creek, if this deal goes through, will begin to be again a preeminent property with the infusion of capital now being managed by a 5-star player. So what we're looking at is that the best idea. I don't know whether you could actually have sold anything that would have given us 100 cents on the dollar. That was not seemingly an option.
What you described is what every member in this club will enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Every member.
Right.
So what's the differentiation for investing in this club to rescue it from falling apart versus somebody who didn't?
One of the things that I think that hurt this club the most is we ended up with two different status. After FCI was created and we tried to rescue the club, there were people who had money on the table as an FCI investor, such as yourself, such as myself, such as probably most of the people here, and we have members who didn't put any money up, but we were all members with the same membership. That created a division that I don't think was healthy for the membership. Once this is over, it's over, and we'll all be back in the same boat. There's no way that we're going to let FCI members come into the club and not have the other members be allowed in. I mean, can you extract the penalty? I don't think that's a practical idea. Extract the penalty on people who did not invest. It's a difficult situation. It was created several years ago. We tried to save the club. We are in the process of having it into a more stable existence, and I don't know of any way to extract penalty from those who didn't invest with us. I'll take my hit with everyone else. What do you propose? First of all, there's not much I can do, but what do you propose? No dues?
No, reduce.
Well, again, you want to get back into us and them and who's different and who's not and who's special. We are. So now we want to become undifferent as fast as we can as opposed to perpetuating it. That is a position you may agree or disagree with, but that's where we are. Miles?
Hi, it's Miles Forsberg again, sorry. Reading the document multiple times, I refer to my notes, it's terrible. I read that, and certain words make me nervous, I'm sure they make other people nervous too. FCI members receive approximately 65% initially, with partial distribution to be made from the reserves established. That, if you could explain that.
Okay.
My real question is, when and how, keyword when, do we get our approximately 65%?
Okay.
And how?
Post-closing, first of all. So it will have to be the closing. We'll take a look at all the issues. The numbers that were put in were an estimate. We think we know what the revenue is going to be. It's $15 million, plus we're buying out inventories, plus the cash on hand, what have you. And you see what has to be set aside. We have debts and liabilities to be paid off. And after you paid everyone off, we are still going to function as a company, FCI, until you can wind it down. There are an escrow being set aside for Manchester's to make sure that we basically do perform on all of our reps and warranties. And there are contingencies set aside, contingent liabilities that have to be wound down. So there'll be a distribution in 2017 for the majority, would be the 65% that's being estimated. I say more because once we remove all the contingencies, contingent liabilities, and satisfy all the demands, I'm hoping sometime in late 2018, whatever's left will be distributed. And I'm hoping that's at least another 5%, but time will tell.
Okay, I'm interested, because sometimes I'm not right. The closing happens, round numbers, August 1st.
Okay.
When do all the FCI people get their approximately 65%? August 2nd, August 10th, September 3rd, January 1st.
I can't give you an exact date. It'll be as soon as practicable thereafter. Again, there'll be settling of the accounts that there'd be the.
So what I'm hearing, politely saying, the answer I'm hearing is I don't know.
What I'm saying is FCI is a company that has cash flows in and out, and you all have K1s and you get your pro rata distribution as they come about. We'll do the same thing then. I don't know exactly what day it will be. It'll be as soon as practicable after the closing and all the uncertainties become certain, you'll get your distribution. So we're looking at in the last part of 2017.
Back room there, very back.
Steve?
Stephen Karen, Stan, we had little, or whatever, Doug Jr., or whatever.
Douglas Manchester Jr., yeah.
He came up here and told us that Austin has bentgrass greens, and that he could foresee that possibly happening. And then we had Sean saying, maybe we'll just oversee. That makes me very concerned. And the fact that none of this is documented, I mean, sure, I'd love to believe this guy. I don't know that. And the legal document says, unless it's in writing, nothing can be assumed to happen. So we're supposed to go on blind faith that they're going to put in new sprinkler systems for the greens, resurface the greens, or whatever. I mean, we just don't have resurfacing the green. I mean, resurfacing or overseeing their waste. I mean, that really bothers me.
Two things I want to say. First of all, I wish there was a lot more that you could pin down. That's not happened. It's not going to happen. What we look at is what's minimal going to come, and what is it that we hope is additionally going to come, and why is that a reasonable risk to take? I don't think that what you were indicating about Douglas saying he liked bentgrass greens and Sean talking about overseeding are not necessarily mutually exclusive. We've got bentgrass greens, but we overseed the fairways all the time, or used to. So I think what you're saying is you have a high-end professional in Sean and in Douglas, and people who know what high-end properties are supposed to look like. They want that to be that. Exactly any detail we don't have today. I think the overriding issue in this meeting is why do we not get more guarantees than what they have? There are no guarantees beyond what's on Exhibit J. That's what we look at as a minimum. And then you would ask yourself, why would somebody put $18 million in a property, 15 to buy it and $3 million to renovate it, when they're then going to turn it into a goat track, not maintain it, not do this, not do that? You've heard these people, they aspire to much higher standards. They have achieved higher standards in a different perspective. It doesn't make sense to me why you, on a business decision, you would invest $18 million in something and then ruin your own property. So I wish there were more as a guarantee. We all do that. So I'm going to give that to everyone. We wish there were more. Do we have enough to think this improves us from where we are to want to move forward? And that's what the vote's going to be all about on Monday.
It's Frank Rossi again. I'm sorry to press this point, Stan, but I have to because you just responded that you found nothing in the Del Mar agreement that was objectionable to you. My issue that I raised earlier on with regards to resignations and memberships, etc. You keep responding to them on, to get your equity back, you need to sell your membership to a new member. I'm talking about straight resignation. A member can resign from this club today with no penalty. He's gone, he gets no equity. These agreements are written very tight for Del Mar about resignation and the fact that dues continue and you can't resign until a new member comes in. So it's not a matter of giving up your equity. You got to keep paying dues until a new member comes in. And the property arrangement is still there. The fact that you didn't find these objectionable kind of bothers me if you guys are the ones that are going to be negotiating arrangements in the membership agreement. This is totally unacceptable.
We will talk to MSC about that.
But you're going to talk to them, but you guys didn't find this unacceptable.
What I appreciate is the clarification. I thought you were talking about earlier being able to resign and somebody write you a check. The idea of resigning and walking away is something I guess you can do here if you want to remove that. That is indicating people there have a different reason. They don't have the right to sell their membership and get the kind of value we have. So there's a difference that needs to be blended. So what I'm getting at, Frank, is there's differences between what we're doing and what they're doing, and there needs to be a blend, and that will be brought up in the conversation.
Rick Watson, actually, my question before we got answered last.
Okay.
Since I don't think it ever got clearly answered, why is the July 3rd deadline? What's driving it?
The idea was, we started this negotiation, we hoped we would be completed March, April, what have you. It drug on. We're hearing a lot of unrest among our members. We've got to get moving. We've got to work this through. So a number of us were working 60-hour weeks and all hours of the day trying to make sure we got this down to where it could be presented. It needs to be approved, and 10 days was the minimum time. We thought it was an adequate time, and we're having these kind of a meeting. We're having continued discussions. If we don't have a vote on Monday, we can extend the period of time to look at it. But 10 was picked up because that was the minimum time after the document was signed. We signed the document as fast as we could, and we thought 10 days with the information emailed and with the hard copy would be adequate. Time will tell whether it is, whether we have the vote or not.
So what you're saying is if people want more time, they shouldn't vote yes, so they have an opportunity to get more time. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that all the information that you're going to get in terms of what's guaranteed and what we can rely on is available today. So there's not going to be new information. There's not going to be a renegotiation of a document. It is as has been presented, and if it's adequate to you, vote for it. If it's not adequate, you don't.
Some did nothing, they failed. Some were bought out by someone else, they did okay and eventually got better. Some were member-owned and they really stumbled and eventually, like Oak Creek, is a world-class place now. How big is the proposed lot? Do we have any idea? Is it 100 rooms, 1,000 rooms, 10 rooms?
144.
I heard you talk about all go in different ways. I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
144 rooms.
The proposal that they gave us originally was 144 rooms. That's going to end our question and answer tonight. It's been a very lively discussion, of course, and we certainly have our opinions, which is good. I want to thank all of you for being here today. I look forward to seeing all of you on Monday.
I'll be here for as long as anybody wants to.